Imagine finding your neighbor engaged in a passionate moment, curtains wide open. Would you watch or look away? Well, the Pippa couple found themselves in this exact dilemma. Their first night in their new apartment. They noticed the couple across the way, their windows completely exposed. The man was photographing his girlfriend in a rather intimate setting. Then things took an unexpected turn. They started, well, let's just say getting busy. Dwang 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 dwang. The boyfriend was captivated by the scene. Pippa, however, felt a bit uneasy about peeping. Why are you watching? She asked. Let's go back inside and have our own dwang dwang session. But by the time she'd changed into her sexy pajamas, her boyfriend was already fast asleep. Meanwhile, they heard that their neighbor Ari wasn't exactly known for his pillow talk. He preferred more discreet methods of affection. Just a fleeting touch, a half-awake caress. At that moment, they felt a sudden irresistible urge to peek into the lives of others. It added a spark to their otherwise dull days. They even gave the neighboring couple nicknames. Sab they called the man, or scumbag when he was less flattering. The woman they called Julia, for her disciplined demeanor. They watched with rapt attention. Suddenly Sab started choking on his food. He was in obvious distress but made no sound. Julia, lost in her music, didn't notice. Not at all. The Pippa couple frantically tried to signal through the window, but they were too far away. Seeing someone's life in danger, they forgot all about the awkwardness of being caught peeking. Pippa told her boyfriend to call the police, but he was still half asleep. Finally, Julia noticed Seb's plight. It was a false alarm. Even Pippa and her boyfriend felt a wave of relief. After this incident, they found themselves even more drawn to their neighbors' lives, especially seeing Seb alive and well. Pippa was oddly moved. To enhance their viewing experience, they bought a telescope, and that's when they made a startling discovery. They discovered their neighbors were also peeping. Turns out Seb was a photographer. He often brought beautiful women home for photo shoots, but things often took a turn. The photo sessions would devolve into something else. A lot of getting busy. If you're so interested, why don't we join them? Pippa suggested. Let's give them a run for their money. And so they began their own dwang dwang session. But it was over rather quickly. Seb's dwang 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 was far more intense. Dwang dwang dwang. It was hopeless. Her boyfriend had once been a contestant on a Fastest Man show. They could barely finish before the neighbors were done. The neighbors' activities continued unabated. The gap was too vast. Pippa found it hard to tolerate. Her boyfriend was her first love, but their relationship was starting to feel like a job, one she wished would end. She felt a sense of loss. She didn't even know herself anymore. A dangerous thought was taking root. The next day, they discussed their peeping habits. Pippa looked regretful. If only we could hear what they were saying, she sighed. Her friend mentioned her husband's past. When he was trying to win over his ex-girlfriend, he had invented a laser listening device. That's how she discovered she wasn't his first love. The principle behind the laser device is quite simple. Glass vibrates with sound, like a car vibrates with passengers. A laser beam aimed at the glass captures these vibrations. These vibrations are then converted into audible sound waves. No need to break anything, right? Pretty clever, wouldn't you say? But there's a problem. It's illegal, and they'd easily be caught by Seb and Julia, unless they could bounce the laser off a mirror placed strategically across the way. But if they could get close enough to place a mirror, why bother peeping? As they pondered this, they saw a bizarre sight. Julia was throwing a costume party. An idea sparked. They could disguise themselves and sneak in. And so they did. Pippa was immediately swept up in the crowd. Luckily, Seb just wanted to take pictures of them. The plan was working. They managed to place the mirror in a hidden spot to capture the laser's reflection. Pippa even erased some love notes her boyfriend had written to his ex. Their relationship felt less important than their voyeurism. The listening device was working. The first thing they heard was Julia confronting Seb about his infidelity. Seb denied everything. He claimed he was the breadwinner. Julia threatened divorce. She insisted women needed their own careers. Seb the coward apologized, but he refused to give up his philandering. He even broke Julia's glasses. What you see isn't the whole picture, he said. It's not the whole of life. The next day, Pippa was still thinking about it. Then she saw Julia at her workplace, wearing glasses. Julia was there to get her glasses fixed. Pippa felt a strange connection to Julia, like an old friend. They chatted easily. Julia even invited her to a sauna. Pippa agreed, but when she told her boyfriend, he forbade her to go. He'd seen Seb with another woman. Seb was undeniably charming. He seemed irresistible. Her boyfriend felt deeply insecure. He feared Pippa would be drawn to Seb. He wanted to stop the peeping and focus on their own lives. Pippa disagreed. He thought Julia deserved to know about Seb's infidelity. She planned to tell Julia the truth. The next day, she met Julia. Julia was stunning. Pippa felt a mix of pity and envy, especially when they discussed their boyfriends. "What does your boyfriend do?" Julia asked. "He's in a band." "Oh, so he's a freeloader?" "Pretty much." "What about your husband?" "He's doing quite well. He's the director general of the Photographic Society. Makes a few million a year. They have a large house." It's alright. He must be very busy, right? Bringing women in and out of the house all day. Even a director general can't do everything by himself. I envy your boyfriend having so much free time. Or your husband for being so successful. You should introduce them. No way. Pippa failed to expose Seb. Instead, she found herself praising him. She began to feel inadequate. She felt restless without peeping at Seb. People often get stuck in their routines and crave something different. They want to see how others live, what they're missing out on. Pippa realized she was getting too involved. She was afraid of losing herself, so she decided to tell Julia the truth. She hacked into Julia's wireless printer and typed a message. The printer started whirring. Julia read the message. Seb is a scumbag. The evidence is in the trash. Julia rushed to the trash can. She found a used condom. Enraged, she grabbed a knife and headed for the bedroom. Pippa and her boyfriend were terrified. He wanted to call the police, but Pippa stopped him. She wasn't sure why. Perhaps she wanted Seb to suffer, or maybe her feelings were changing. Julia ultimately couldn't go through with it. She seemed to snap out of a daze. The next day, she told her boyfriend she was done with peeping. They needed to focus on their own lives. But before she could finish, they saw Julia attempt suicide through the window. Everyone was stunned. Her boyfriend blamed himself for not listening to Pippa. Their differing views had created a divided defense between them. Yet amidst the sadness, a flicker of excitement. Seb was now single, and so was Pippa. He was attractive, and so was she. They could be a good match. With that thought, she looked towards his apartment. Seb was drinking, looking forlorn. He didn't seem as despicable as before. At that moment, Pippa felt a strange desire to comfort him. So she followed him to a bar, watching him from a distance. Suddenly he turned around. Pippa tried to look away, but he was already walking towards her. He sat down in front of her. "I've never seen such a beautiful woman," he said. "I have a philosophical question for you. Why do we use our thumbs? Referring to a girl doesn't equate to real love. True love is finding a real woman." Pippa understood. He was still justifying his actions, making excuses for his infidelity. "Because a thumb girl has no mind," he said. "But real women do." Pippa was confused. "You're too intelligent for such a small head," he remarked. Pippa told him an Aesop's fable. A farmer had a donkey. He couldn't afford to feed it, so the donkey was always hungry. It asked God to find it a new owner. God found it a cobbler, but then it was turned into leather shoes. The story teaches us we always dislike our present, but things could be worse elsewhere. Seb laughed. "Do you know why Aesop wrote that fable? It was for slaves, to comfort them when they complained. But the truth is they were always oppressed." "That sounds familiar. My boss says the same thing." Pippa was swayed. She accepted his invitation to his apartment for a photo shoot. He was more experienced with this. A shower after the shoot. Dancing under the sheets. That part was left to the imagination. Just a blur of white. But then, her boyfriend returned. He'd bought her flowers, probably to apologize. He took a drink as he entered, then went to feed the birds. He looked up and saw Pippa. By the time he was done feeding the birds, he was dead. After his death, Pippa was devastated. Until she heard about Seb's photography exhibition, she decided to see him again. She dressed up carefully and visited her friend. She blamed herself for her boyfriend's death. Her friend told her not to feel guilty. He'd already been dumped after all. That's what she had to keep in mind. The scene shifted. Pippa and her friend arrived at the exhibition. It was crowded. Even their real estate agent was there. Something big was about to happen. Seb took the stage, glowing with attention. He announced a collaborative work. Then Pippa saw his partner. Her jaw dropped. It was Julia, who was supposed to be dead. She had a bad feeling. And she was right. The cover was pulled off the artwork. It was a series of explicit photos of Pippa and her boyfriend. They had been spied on by Seb and Julia. Or rather, they had been part of their game. Was it illegal? Not exactly. Because Seb owned the apartments. And it was in the rental agreement. Tenants allowed themselves to be spied on. But they hadn't read the fine print. Like those agree-to-terms checkboxes. How many people actually read them? Pippa was humiliated, the town's laughingstock. She had to move. But then a twist. While cleaning the birdcage, she found the birds were poisoned. The wine was poisoned. Her boyfriend didn't kill himself. He was murdered. The murderer was clear. Julia's suicide was a ruse to create an opportunity. They were profiting from their artwork. Their sponsor's wine arrived. They celebrated with a drink. Then the printer whirred. A message appeared. I know you killed him. Seb looked towards Pippa's old apartment. She was watching. They feared exposure. They chased her all the way to an optical store. They had her cornered. They were about to strike. But Julia suddenly collapsed. She fell to the floor. The wine was drugged. As for Seb, he was disoriented. Pippa used lasers to burn their retinas. They were blind. Later, a new couple moved in. They couldn't see them. And so the story of Voyeur ended. In this age of no privacy, envy and voyeurism are rampant. Like scrolling through social media, we see others' perfect lives. They're always eating out, but they don't post pictures of their instant noodles. Unless you eat them every day. True happiness and suffering are never fully displayed. So remember this. Draw your curtains at night. That's all for today. Don't forget to follow me. See you next time.